that we're recording. Perfect. All right, now we got our recording.
Okay. Got some support in the chat. Thank you, Dr. Asia. All right, we're ready for roll call. Aaron Black.
Present.
Thank you. Natalie Brown.
Good morning, present.
Morning. Savannah Brown. Let's see, my screen is doing something weird. No Savannah. Charles Davis.
Present. Good morning.
Good morning. Carrie Eckert.
Good morning.
Good morning. Jacob Fry. Thought I saw Jacob on here. Huh.
He's on.
Okay.
I can see.
He is?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't see him.
Oh, yes. Jacob Fry.
Okay. Sean Gartrell.
Good morning.
Good morning. Kelly George.
Good morning.
Good morning. Lorene Gilroy.
Good morning.
Good morning. Marjorie Grimsley.
Here's Miss Margie. I see her on the screen.
I see her now too. Good morning, Marjorie.
Hi, I'm having technical difficulties, so I'm going to be participating by phone because if I push any more buttons, I'll probably never return.
Story of my life, Margie.
I will great
at every meeting, so
totally great problem.
I was there for a second, but that was short-lived. But thanks, guys.
Margie.
You got it. Jenny Guencheva.
Good morning. I'm present.
Good morning. Danielle House.
Good morning, present.
Good morning. I am present. Stephanie Johnson. Megan Lovelace.
Good morning, present.
Good morning. Candace Ludwig. Dr. Asia Lyons.
Here. Good morning.
Good morning. Sharon Mach. I know I'm not saying that right. Can you tell me how I say your name again? Mach. Right?
Yes. And she did email saying that she was going to be a couple minutes late today. She had another standing meeting, so she'll be here around 9:30.
Wonderful. Thank you. Michael Miller.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Dennis Streeter.
Here I am.
Good morning. Angie Wold.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Annette Zacharias. Hey. Well, here we all are.
I just want to check, is Savannah Brown here today?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry, I had trouble finding the Zoom link.
No.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Savannah.
Yeah,
Thanks so
I'm
much
here.
for joining.
I made it. Did you get my letter? I did figure out how to get it signed.
Yes, I just got it this morning, so thank you so much for that.
Okay, you're
I think
welcome.
there's
Thank you.
only one person now that I'm needing the letter of recommendation from. And so I'm going to reach out to them directly to show them how to e-sign that. I'll reach out to them directly after this meeting today since I only have one left. Looks like we have a hand raised. Darby?
Yeah, I just wanted to come on. I'm here in place for Rachel Horde with the Division of Oak Rehab. Rachel is at a conference all week, and so I am attending in her place.
Thank you so much for that.
Looks like we got a variety of state partners on as well, and welcome to all of our state partners.
Thank you, Megan. Okay. Moving on to approve the minutes. Everyone should have received our November meeting minutes. Checking in to see if anyone has any corrections, updates.
I dropped that link in the chat as well.
I'm not hearing any. Oh no. That's like the worst when your restart required pops up. Not right now. We're good, hopefully. So the minutes look good to everybody? No adjustments looks like need to be made? Get a motion to approve our November 7th meeting minutes.
So moved.
Seconded. This is Kelly.
Wonderful. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Are approving our November meeting minutes. Thank you, everybody.
Hope, do you want to do a quick introduction of the BHA staff that are here with you, just so everyone knows who else is on the meeting?
You know what? Yes, thank you for reminding me to do that. I've done that every other time and I failed to do that. So thank you. Yes, please. We'd love to have an introduction from BHA. Thank you.
Okay, I can jump in. I am Megan Shelton, Division Director of Strategy, Planning, and Engagement. And the next BHA staff I see on here is Kalandra, so I will pass it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Kalandra Lindstadt. I am the Community Engagement Specialist for the Northeastern region of the state. So got sort of Jackson County all the way out towards Phillips, Yuma, and Ray. Nice to see you all. I will pass it to Brittany because she's to my left.
Thanks, Kalandra. I'm Brittany Noble, and I am the Regional Community Engagement Specialist for Region B, which is most of the Denver metro area, out west to Eagle County, Summit, some of those mountain resort counties, and then actually out east I have Albert and Lincoln as well. And I thought I saw Marius on here, so I'll pass it to them next.
Hey everybody, this is Marius, they, them. I am over the Southeast region. So I cover Colorado Springs and Pueblo up into the mountains in Teller and Park County, the San Luis Valley, and the whole southeast corner of the state. Yeah, nice to meet everybody. Thanks. My apologies. I'll pass it over. Trying to see who else is on from the BHA.
I'll go. You don't need to do that. Hi, this is Aaliyah
Thanks.
Andrews. I'm the Recovery Services Manager at BHA.
I can go as well. Good morning, everyone. My name is Marina Borisov. I'm a Strategic Project Manager at BHA. Thank you.
And I'll also go. I'm actually not with the BHA, I'm with CDPHE, but this is Bonnie Holiday. And for the purposes of this group, I'm your prevention technical assistance provider. And one of my colleagues, Kathy Dote, is also with me today. And another colleague will be joining at 9:55. We'll be giving a presentation.
Cool.
Bonnie? Anybody else from the BHA? Right. So with that, we will go ahead and segue into our BPAC business to get us started for today. So wanted to bring up to the council our second draft of bylaws. So as you all know, we have been holding office hours for members of the council to come and join us as we work through these bylaws. For public participants who are joining us today, what we were doing is we took some time over this year to standardize our bylaws throughout all of our statutorily required councils. And from that point forward, we started editing them and really making them unique to the individual needs of these councils for this council specifically. So wanted to go ahead and pull up our second draft of bylaws here. The link is hyperlinked into the agenda here. I'm going to go ahead and drop the link to the agenda in the chat as well. So everybody can pull that up on your own time. All right. So coming over to our second draft of bylaws. So as you can see from the first draft of bylaws, what we did is we worked through this line by line, and members made comments, we made edits. So all of the comments you can see here, we just tracked them. So when you compare them side by side in draft 2, you can see exactly what changes were made and which sections and how we came to those conclusions. So wanting to first start off with our mission and our vision statement, based on some of the feedback that you all provided. I wanted to see if these, ruminate with you all, if this is the correct mission and vision. I don't know why I'm trying to blend those words today. Statement of the council, if we need to go back and do any more edits to them. So really just kind of want to get some feedback from you all today for our mission and our vision statement. So the mission statement reads that the Behavioral Health Planning and Advisory Council is dedicated to advancing mental health and substance use services throughout Colorado by providing inclusive, informed, and actionable recommendations to the Behavioral Health Administration regarding block grant funding. Composed of individuals with lived and professional experience, this council works collaboratively to advocate for more accessible, equitable, and responsive mental health and substance use services that evolve with the needs of our community. Through thoughtful dialogue and evidence-based learning, the Behavioral Health Planning and Advisory Council strives to impact the behavioral health system of Colorado that fosters healing, resiliency, and inclusivity. So what is some feedback with that? See a thumbs up from Megan.
Hi, it's Erin. I personally think it's too long, but I have been working on things like that with other advisory boards and councils, and I've just been told over and over those are just too long. Otherwise, it encompasses what we do, but I personally feel like it's too long of a mission statement, but I'll support along with the majority of this council.
Thank you for that feedback, Erin. If there's any sections that we should cut, do you have any recommendations as to what should be cut? Jenny?
I just don't know that we need in the mission statement who we're composed of necessarily.
Okay.
I tend to agree with that. Maybe that will shorten actually. One recommendation I would have is to add some reference when we talk about services that evolve with the needs of all our communities. I think there's a widely spread perception that what happens in Denver doesn't necessarily reflect on the rural areas. And that may not be the fact, but I would like to see some kind of reference to inclusivity also geographically.
Does the rest of the council agree with removing who composes this council? I know in previous conversations, it's been very important that we do express who this council is composed of. And so do we want to remove that? Is that something that we would like to keep? Can I get some feedback with that? I see Lorraine's hand raised.
Yes, thank you. I think that there are some key words that we want to get in here, and I understand that. But I think that the first sentence is the mission, and we could even delete the last sentence, which is kind of a different way of saying the first sentence. And as far as inclusivity and composed of individuals, I like that, but I wonder if it's appropriate for the mission. The mission, I think, should be simple, although I really liked all of this stuff. So maybe there's a subset that goes with the mission, and somehow we can figure out how to make it more inclusive. Try not to make too much of a compound sentence. That's what I have to offer.
Lorraine? Anybody else?
Caitlin, I can't find my hand button, but I just don't think we need to repeat our name in the mission. I think we could just say the council, or I think that just stretches it out and it's not really necessary.
Anybody else? Tasha?
As a person's with lived experience and like all the representing the people with like disabilities and all the people of Colorado, I feel like Behavioral Health Administration Advisory Council should be said in the first statement, in the first sentence, but you can eliminate it in the very last sentence. And it's very transparent and it explains it and it's easy to understand.
Tasha? All right. For the sake of time, we're gonna keep moving through. We can always come back though. And then we can also hold some additional office hours. It sounds like we might have some other edits to make, so we can do a draft 3 as well. So what I can plan to do is send out another link to some office hours, and any member who is able to join, we would really love to get this feedback as well, so we can get these bylaws up and running and voted on as soon as possible. So for the vision, the Behavioral Health Planning and Advisory Council envisions a future where mental health and substance use services throughout Colorado are accessible, effective, and compassionate. We strive to influence system-wide changes that expand and enhance mental health and substance use services through community collaboration, the reduction of stigma, and a commitment to transparency and accountability. By fostering an environment of trust and inclusion, we aim to transform our current behavioral health system to empower individuals, support families, and strengthen communities. Any feedback on the vision statement? Thank you, Megan. Appreciate that comment. Anybody else?
I feel like the vision statement is really good and it covers a lot of what's being said in the mission statement. So that can help to just remove or exclude some of the things that are in the mission statement because we're essentially repeating ourselves. So I think the vision statement covers what we want to say in the mission statement too.
Thanks, Natalie. Jenny?
I like the idea of mentioning the environment of trust and inclusion. I think including the word trust definitely makes a difference. So I really like that.
Yeah. Lorene.
I like the word compassionate, but I like trust too. I thought in my past that when I worked on bylaws that the vision came first and then the mission statement. But I like what Natalie said. This is really thorough. And I think sometimes I get stuck on, well, we recommend things to SAMHSA. That's what we do.
Mhm.
But we don't really think, well, I think about it, but if we were to say that to someone on the outside, they wouldn't know what that means to us, which is all the things that are in the vision statement. So I like the vision statement being more thorough.
Okay. All right. Reggie.
Hi, I'm here for the moment anyway, and not by phone. So, I just was thinking, going back with making this unique to the Planning Council, is this mission and vision unique to us, or did?
Yes.
So, I think this really can help identify the difference between this council and other councils, which to me is what's most important about the language in these, in the mission and vision.
Yes. Yep. These are very unique to you all. Right.
So I have a question for the council. I'm just wondering if somewhere either in the mission or the vision, because I liked that last comment, should we state though that our mission and vision is to make recommendations, period?
Yeah.
I mean, so as far as Marjorie saying what separates us from some of the other councils,
Mm.
that's why we're here. That's our role. And so I don't know if that should be put in somewhere within the mission or the vision. Otherwise, I really do love the vision.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mission statement here, it says actionable recommendations to the BHA regarding block grant funding. So that is the statutory purpose of this council, is to make
Perfect.
recommendations on block grant funding to us.
Great. All right, we're good.
All right, sounds good. Let's keep moving down here then. All right, wanted to bring this up to the council as a whole regarding new members. So in some of our other councils that I work with, we have implemented a 90-day basically hold period for new members to vote on council matters. This is just because they lack the historical knowledge of the council. And so this 90-day period would allow them to get a little bit more of that historical knowledge, that working knowledge, see, you know, how council meetings are running and everything like that, before they become like before they have those voting capabilities. We're talking about this really specifically when we're thinking about the council chair and vice chair. So if we look back on our calendar, our annual calendar, that bird's eye view for the year, we have our July meeting, our October meeting as kind of like our reset refresh for the year. That's when new members are going to be onboarding. That's when the council is going to, you know, take another look at the bylaws, make sure all that language is still good and up to date for us. That's when we're going to check in to see if our chair and vice chair are still good to hold their positions, if we'd like to take a new vote on chair and vice chairs. And so specifically, if we're, for example, voting on new chair and vice chairs, the new members wouldn't have any historical knowledge as to what members, you know, are the strongest participants, who's led in previously, any kind of information like that. And so wanted to just potentially bring this up to you all to get some feedback to see if that 90-day hold period for new members to vote is something that this council would like to do. If not, we can absolutely ignore this comment and keep moving forward. But just kind of wanted to put that on the table and get some feedback from you all based on your opinions with this.
Caitlin?
Yes.
I don't like this idea. It seems like you know, you go through the rigmarole to be on the council, but you're a less than member for a while.
Okay.
And I know when I first joined someplace, you're right. I don't know the history. I don't know these people very well, but sometimes I get a feel for things. And usually the first meeting that I go to or meeting or two, I talk to other members and tell them what I'm looking for and I would ask them, who do you think should be the chair? And I'm not going to necessarily follow you because you might want the chair to be 7 feet tall, and I don't want them to be 7 feet tall. So I glean a lot of information from the first meeting. If I were to sit through 2 meetings and 2 months and not be able to vote on something, that sounds undemocratic to me. And I don't mean to be criticizing. I'm just giving you a really gut reaction to it.
Yeah, that's
Um,
exactly why we wanted to have these conversations.
yeah, cool. I don't think we get a I don't think that if we didn't have this regulation in the bylaws that or wherever we would put it, that we would have terrible chairs and terrible vice chairs. I think that we could also, instead of all of that, we could offer the possibility that, hey, we know you're new. If you're not sure about this, you can abstain.
Yes, and we
So you,
always have that voting option. Yes, no,
but
or abstain from voting. So
yeah, because then you make the choice that you're not going to have a meaningful vote. And I
Right.
think that would suit me better. So I just wanted to contribute that. I'm not criticizing your work.
No, yeah, and that's why we put it out there. We wanted the feedback from you. If it works for some councils, it doesn't work for this council, that's completely fine. That
And
is
I
that's
will
not a
follow
problem.
whatever the rest of the
Exactly.
council goes with. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I talked over you.
No,
Go
you're
ahead.
fine. You're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
Any other feedback for this?
I agree with Lorene. I will say that I believe it's up to new council members to educate themselves. When I get on a new council, I look back at minutes, I look back at recorded videos, I go onto the website and I take that upon myself, but I think it would behoove new members during the onboarding process to be encouraged to do those things for themselves. And again, like Laureen said, I have showed up to new boards and commissions and have abstained from a couple of the new votes because I just didn't feel informed enough. And so that's part of that onboarding process too for new members is how you can vote and what all of that means. And so I don't prefer having to wait 90 days to vote personally.
Perfect. Jenny.
I would agree with the prior two members of the council. I think the effective a supportive group entity would offset the lack of information because we're here for each other as well. And if somebody is likely to be making a recommendation based on lack of information, the rest of the council would offset that with providing that information or correcting that opinion. So I think it sounds like we're promoting throwing someone in the deep part of the swimming pool, but I think we're actually just supporting the democratic position of that person.
That makes sense. Tasha, I see that you have your hand raised. I am going just to move on just because we are running really low on time and I have a bunch of things that I gotta get through. But if you wouldn't mind just dropping your comment in the chat, that would be wonderful. So we're gonna ex-nay that, or move on. I just wanted to highlight here that we have broken down in some additional context subcommittees and the roles, activities, and authorities of the subcommittees, which I'm going to explain in a little bit of detail in just a moment. We also wanted just to highlight here that based on a previous executive subcommittee meeting, excuse me, that we are allowing members to utilize artificial intelligence So any sort of AI tool that you need for assistance for like note taking and things like that. But we do want to recognize that this is not going to be allowed for a substitution in place of you. So you're more than welcome to use your AI note takers and things like that, but we still need you physically to be able to be here, to engage, to be able to comment and things like that. So you can use it as a tool of assistance, but not as a tool of substitution. So just wanted to point that out for all members moving forward. All right, so we'll come back to some bylaws. I'll send out some additional information and we'll hold another office hour or two just to clean up the mission statement and everything like that. And then depending on that, how many people we have at the January meeting, we would love to be able to hold a vote at the January meeting, or at least hold an e-vote before the January meeting, just so we can kind of get these up and running at the beginning of the year with this new year coming in. So depending on how many people are here, would it make more sense to hold an e-vote as opposed to a formal vote during the council meeting in January? Because it is on January 2nd. So we do realize that it's hitting pretty close to the holidays and we don't want to overwhelm anybody or anything like that. So wanted to kind of get a little bit of feedback, whether you'd like an e-vote or wait until our January meeting to vote.
And Caitlin, what is the date of that January meeting, please?
January 2nd.
Right, and that is Happy New Year time. So we may not have as many people that join us that day. So just something to consider when we think about pushing that vote out.
Yes, I'm seeing a lot of e-votes in the chat. So we'll do an e-vote. So please keep an eye out on your emails because all voting members are required to vote. Even if you are abstaining from voting, you need to submit that you're abstaining from voting. So again, please keep an eye out on your emails. I know they kind of get lost sometimes, but I send one follow-up email and then I normally send at least one or two after that as well, just to kind of move it to the top of the inbox. So I'm gonna highlight in bold the action items are required. So please just keep an eye out on your email and make sure to do that because I will be bugging you if I don't get those.
When do you think that you'll be sending that out?
Probably I would say the week before December. I am out all next week. So I'll try and get it out by this Friday before I leave. But at the absolute latest, the week of the 16th.
So this Friday is tomorrow. And are we are we getting like the final draft or are we getting draft 3 tomorrow?
We'll be getting the final draft because I'll be working to incorporate all the recommendations from today. And then we've held all of those office hours for members to be able to join and participate and give their feedback for the second round of bylaw draft. We've also had the bylaw feedback form that has been sent out multiple times for members to comment that way as well, that we've also incorporated into the second draft, or into the first draft, excuse me.
Okay, so I apologize. I'm a little thick sometimes with sequences. I'm going to get an email like tonight or tomorrow that I need to vote on right away. But then there's something happening after that. So there's going to be another bylaw email.
What I'm doing, Maureen, is the comments that you all provided today. So if we look at the draft 1, this is the initial set of comments that all the members provided via the office hours and the bylaw feedback form. So I incorporated all of those and came up with this bylaw draft 2. Based off the recommendations that you all provided today, I'm going to go back and edit, for example, the mission statement and things like that, and make that bylaw draft 3. Then I'm going to send out that bylaw draft 3 for everybody to review and vote on. So either will say, yes, I approve this, no, I don't approve this, or I abstain from voting. And I'll try and get that out by tomorrow. So members will have a couple of weeks to look through this and vote. So we're trying to get it done by January 2nd so we can get the bylaws enacted, basically.
Thank you. That I understand that better.
Cheers. Okay, now.
Caitlin, just a suggestion as you're sending out those directions for us to look at the third draft. If people do not agree with the third draft, ask them to provide rationale for why they don't agree or what their suggestion is. I think that will help the process move a little more quickly.
Absolutely. That's a great recommendation, Natalie. Thank you. All right. So for the sake of time, I'm just going to go over some things sorry, Megan.
Sorry. Feedback forms in the chat, y'all. So if you can't find it, it's in there right now.
Thank
You can grab it out of the chat, and that's a great tool to use to contribute to the process. Sorry, Caitlin.
You're fine, Megan. Thank you so much. So I'm going to kind of go a little bit out of order here just for the sake of time because I only have about 10 minutes. So just wanted to remind all of our members about our subcommittee applications. Since we have restructured our subcommittees, we have our block grant subcommittee application, our systems advocacy subcommittee application, and then if you would like to participate in the executive subcommittee or the membership subcommittee, please go ahead and email me directly. I don't have an application up for those just because we already have those subcommittees up and running, but we'd be happy to accept more members if you would like to participate in those. So just because there's not an application doesn't mean you can't participate, but please just go ahead and email me if you'd like to participate in those two. Other than that, please click on these hyperlinks and complete the applications because we're trying to get those up and running by the beginning of the new year as well. Also wanted just to briefly mention here, based off of our conversation at the last meeting for the letter of support for harm reduction that Aaron Black had brought up, that is going to be designated to our block grant subcommittee for them to help assist writing those letters of support for harm reduction. So as we'll see in this presentation, that's going to be one of the activities for these subcommittees is some of like the extra activities that they'll have, and they'll be helping write letters of support as they're the ones in charge of writing the letters of recommendation. So that's what we're planning to do with that the letter for support for harm reduction. Then I wanted to quickly ask you all about creation of a public questionnaire to link to our public facing website. So this would specifically allow members such as yourself to direct people from your communities and the public to go and fill out this form if they have any questions related to our council, if they need any additional assistance with getting support or who to contact or things like that. And then basically what we can do is we can link this to an Excel sheet that the executive subcommittee will then review and we can bring up during council meetings, or we can actually, help direct these people to the correct resources or, see if there's any trends that we're seeing in questions like, okay, we've seen this one question arise 3 different times. Let's maybe have an in-depth discussion about this question during a council meeting. So that way we can kind of start seeing some of the trends that the community is needing. This is another resource for you all to direct your community partners to say, hey, I don't know who to contact about this. Let's go ahead and have you fill out this form, and then we're going to work with you to get you that support that you need. So just kind of wanted to propose that to you all to see if that's an idea that you would like to add to our website. Just another tool for the public to use and for us to use.
I think that's wonderful. And I think it's wonderful that if somebody asked me the question and I knew how to help them out, that we can still contact you so that you're evaluating trends. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's great.
Thank you, Savannah. Okay, so Hope, can I pass it to you to make that motion and then we'll get that linked to the public facing website?
Sure, thank you. So motion to create a public questionnaire on the BHA website.
Second, Laureen seconds. I love to eat seconds.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, thank you so much. All right, I have about 3 minutes, so I'm gonna try and go through this as fast as I possibly can. I will also look at this in depth with you a little bit more at the next meeting, but this is hyperlinked to the agenda. So you all are able to go through this at your own time and formulate any questions or concerns that you might have. But our wonderful Ann Denton is our TA support from SAMHSA, and she is helping us with this subcommittee restructure as we start to, progress as a council. So this is just kind of going to lay out the roadmap for our subcommittees moving forward. So here it has the functions of the subcommittees. It breaks down the operations, the authority, the roles of the subcommittees. Here we have our current subcommittees and what they do and what they're tasked with. So we see our operations subcommittee that consists of our executive subcommittee and our membership subcommittee. We have the block grant review subcommittee as well as the systems advocacy subcommittee. So a lot of the detailed information about what these subcommittees are, what they're going to do is going to be in this slide deck. Then we're going to have, just the creating of the subcommittee and the reporting structure here. So basically, when a subcommittee is created, how it's going to report to, how it's going to do its task, how it's going to report to the executive committee, how the executive committee is going to report to the council as a whole, and things like that. And then some do's and don'ts for the subcommittee officers, just as an extra support. So again, if you can take some time to look through this, I'll go over this in a little bit more detail at the January meeting. But please just, again, take a little bit of a look over this over the next couple of weeks and formulate any questions that you might have, any concerns that you might have, any clarifications that you might need, so we can address that at the January meeting as well. All right. And we're 1 minute ahead of time, people. Look at that. All right. So any last minute questions, comments, or concerns for me before I pass it over to Hope to put us on a 5-minute break? All right. Again, just as a reminder, please keep an eye on your emails. I'll be sending out the follow-up email from today's meeting, as well as those action items that we'll need from you, basically just that e-vote and applications for the subcommittees. Those are going to be our big outstanding action items over the next couple of weeks. So with that, I'll pass it back over to you, Hope.
All right, it looks like we're right on time. Well done. So we'll take a break for 5 minutes and be back at 9:50. Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. Those 5 minutes go fast, I'll tell you what. Right. Let me see here. Bunny, who is it that I need to?
You'll be, I think, sharing permissions with Tiasha Fernando Bachrock, and actually, I'm not seeing her on yet, so let me ping her real quick.
Okay.
Actually, this is on me. I told my crew that we were presenting at 10. So
Not a problem. Not a problem. We can actually go down and kind of go through some other things first if you'd like, then come back.
that sounds perfect.
Great. Okay. So we're going to come back to prevention in just a moment. So Hope, if you want to take it away with treatment recovery, and then I can provide a brief update on legislation as well.
Sure. Well, we'll turn it over for any updates on the treatment side.
So anybody within the realm of treatment, do you have any updates on what's going on in your communities or your program?
I'm not in that world, but I recently met with like the BHA rules crew, and there was a gentleman, Matt, who was letting us know about some substance use support in rural community. And so a methadone clinic will be opening up in Breckenridge, Colorado, and we haven't had that in the mountains before. So it will be another tool in the toolbox for humans that need that support, that they do not have to travel to an urban environment to receive it. So that's pretty cool. I'm sure there's a much better explanation that someone that works in that field could give, but just heads up, there's going to be some harm reduction support in the mountains, which is great.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. What about the realm
I don't
of
know if, sorry, I don't know if this is relevant with treatment, but I did watch the video on that you sent out, and I if as soon as you give me the word, I'll be playing that at Loveland City Council, because our public and other council members and city leadership, that is the most simple video I've ever seen. It will work for third graders and it will work for 65-year-olds. And so thank you to whoever did that video. I cannot wait to blast it out so people understand that there's a difference between intervention and prevention, and that's what my community really needs to be focused on and have a clear understanding of. So thank you, whoever did that video. I will be circulating that in mass.
Can you let us know when you go before the council? Because I do business in Greeley, and I would like to attend if possible to give support.
I greatly appreciate that. And I'm not exactly sure when I can get it on agenda. We only have a couple of meetings until we're off for 3 weeks. But that's my intention. And if you'll slide your personal contact information in the chat, I will absolutely hit you up for that, because all the support we can get is very appreciated. Thank you, Lorraine.
And you're welcome. And I've heard you talk about Loveland before, and I kind of know who you are. I'm sorry. The only picture I have is of the interpreter, so I don't know who's talking. Who should I send my chat to?
Apologies, my video's not working for some reason. It's Aaron Black.
Oh, Aaron, okay. Got you
That's
covered,
me.
Click. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. And for legislation updates, we have our joint budget committee presentations coming up. This is the committee that oversees all of the state funding and budgeting for the year. And so basically each agency has to go through and present its budget. This is something that Ryan Templeton spoke to, I believe it was at the last meeting, and broke down BHA's budget request. As you all know, we are in a budget deficit this year. I believe it's a $1 billion deficit. And so there are cuts being made, mandatory cuts being made across every single state agency. But as Ryan explained, even though it looks like we're making a lot of cuts, no services are going to be impacted because we do have funding coming in other various ways. We are able to renegotiate contracts to do it for a lesser amount and things of that nature. So the commissioner actually presents to the JBC on December 19th at 1:30 in the afternoon. And the link to find either if you'd like to participate in person at the Capitol or just listen to the presentation, you can do that via the Joint Budget Committee website, which is hyperlinked here. So you'll just click on that and then scroll down to the agenda for December 19th, and you'll be able to see that information there. So that's all we have for legislation updates. Megan, for community engagement.
Thanks, Caitlin. I just wanted to flag one thing, or just jump onto one thing that you just said. When we're looking at the budget and the budget cuts, if it looks like some programs have reduced funding, it's actually to adjust what they've actually spent. So we went through and evaluated, and some of the programs there were just funds underspent. So there will be no impact to the program. The budget is just being adjusted so that it matches what they're actually spending. So I just wanted to clarify that because it can look a little bit concerning, but it's really not. It's just having a realistic budget for what the program is utilizing.
Thank you for that, Megan. And then do you want to provide an update for community engagement as well?
Absolutely. And I know some of our regional engagement specialists are on here, so I will let them each give a little bit of an overview of the work that they've been doing over the last month. But I will also mention that this team has been incredibly busy. As you all know, they supported all of the commissioners' community conversations this fall, which wrapped up the end of October, and then they have continued. They started in late August, I believe, for safety net rural stakeholdering, and that has been a very robust effort that is continuing. We have our final event for that for now next week on the 9th, and additionally, we have a virtual meeting for the Children, Youth, and Families implementation plan, a listening session this evening that team is also supporting. So I wanted to put a quick flag for you all if you're interested in joining that. It is on our stakeholder calendar. You can also put a message for me directly and I can get you the information if you don't have it, but I can also put the link to that meeting in the chat for everyone. And with that, I will go ahead and pass it over to, I believe I just saw.
I can go first, Megan. I have something queued up to share.
Great. Fantastic, Calandra. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Good morning. Thank you again for giving us a little minute of your time. You guys are working through so much stuff, and it's fascinating to see everybody talking through all of the big issues. I was going to share that we presented one of our jobs is to serve priority populations, and one of the priority populations that we've identified is our Spanish speaking and migrant population here in Colorado. And so we have connected with the CMRC, the Colorado Migrant and Rural Coalition, really awesome active group serving our Hispanic and Latine migrant community across the state. We gave a presentation for them to introduce them to the BHA, introduce them to the regional specialists so that that group now has our contact information and knows a little bit about what we do. And then Matt Holtman, who I believe you guys are familiar with, came and also gave a presentation on the children and youth plan. So it was a really cool opportunity, I guess, to share and make that connection. And we're looking forward to connecting with that group in the future.
I'm happy to jump in as well. And I know Marius probably has a lot to say. They've been really active in their community as well. But over the past month, just getting to know our regions a little bit more, heading out for in-person tours of different facilities or nonprofits. I know Calandra and I had the opportunity to meet with La Cochina, which is an organization that has services both in Denver and Fort Collins. So just kind of increasing our partnerships and our reach as far as connections, answering questions that folks are sending us and getting them connected with the appropriate folks at the BHA around grants or funding, or how do we serve folks who may not qualify for Medicaid, for example. Like Megan shared, we've also been out in community with the rural stakeholdering events, and in general, just hoping to get face time with as many folks as possible in our region who are out there doing the work. And Marius, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, thanks, Brittany. Hi, everybody. Sorry I wasn't able to be on camera earlier. I'm Marius, and I'm over the Southeast region. And, part of our job right now is going out and actually finding and meeting with folks who come into contact with and are involved with the behavioral health system. And so, because I cover 22 of our 64 counties in Colorado, I do a lot of driving. I have been meeting with and touring facilities and talking with folks out in the mountains up in Chaffee County and Salida. I have already been out a couple of times to Alamosa and the surrounding area in the San Luis Valley, and heading out there again next week to meet with some additional folks who are running some really cool programs in the area. I have been making connections with school districts and law enforcement in Huerfano and Los Animas County down the I-25 corridor going south, and then out into the east in Benton, Prowers County, really getting out there and talking to folks in Lamar, touring the Fort Lyons facility down in Bent County, and then coming back into the cities. I am continuing to find more and more folks who are doing some great work in Pueblo and Colorado Springs, and going out and meeting with those folks so that as we continue on our journey in community engagement and really wanting to hear the voices from some of our rural areas, that we have the folks already have relationships with folks all over in our rural and frontier areas, as well as some of our urban centers on the I-25 corridor. Additionally, I've been invited to be a part of the Suicide Prevention Commission through the state and have joined the Rural Communities Commission work group, as well as maternal and child health, which is actually my background. And so really excited to be able to take some of this voice from the rural areas in Colorado and bring it in to some of the work going on at the state level around suicide prevention. I think that's it for me.
Megan, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, sorry, just a budget thing. I didn't know if y'all could just drop the budget request from BHA into the chat. So when, if anybody decides to thoroughly enjoy themselves while listening to the Joint Budget Committee talk about money, they can just follow along in the R1, R2, like they can see it, right? And they can read it. So if y'all wouldn't mind just dropping that in the chat for the crew, and just wanted to flag that commish will come on 19th December, but JBC will also like pre-present on the 10th. It's kind of a moving target, you guys. It does like sometimes the JBC changes the calendar, but just so you know, there'll be two presentations that BHA does, and one is on the 10th, but then the commish comes on the 19th. So just sorry to take us back to the world of legislation there. And a shout out to all the community engagement specialists. You guys are awesome. And I hope that you connect with some folks individually that are representing some rural communities. Heard a lot about rural, and we're so grateful that you are speaking into that space. And there's some really knowledgeable people right here on this call from rural communities that can really help you to meet communities and dig in. Thank you.
Megan, yes, I've already dropped the budget in the chat. I can go ahead and do it again. And then let me see here. Jenny, the link to the Joint Budget Committee website is here in the agenda. So just click on that and then scroll down to the 10th and the 19th, and it will give you the links on how to join and listen into those presentations.
Thank you so much.
Of course, Dennis.
Hi, all. As far as our community engagement that we're trying to do as BPAC, most of you are aware that I'm doing behavioral health best practices podcasting in order to get information that's easy for the community to understand. I will put the website and my email in the chat again. I'm encouraging anybody that wants to come on and promote and explain their program. Welcome to do a Zoom interview with me. If not, I can do as a public affairs reporter and put out information as a podcast. I prefer to have someone as an expert actually sit for an interview and explain it. It's a lot more effective. Megan Shelton, I would love, and I am going to be engaged with the community outreach programs as best I can as a reporter for BHA. I would love to have you or one of your people sit for an interview so that the public knows how you're looking to engage with the community. I think that's a real important thing. So, if you can, get back to me and let me know your thoughts. If not, I can do it as a reporter. I will gather information best I can. And again, this goes for anybody and everybody with behavioral health as a focus. We're going to be putting it out. And I have recently created a Blue Sky account, and I will be posting it there. But I also have a YouTube channel set up, and I have some already posted. So again, I'll put that information in the chat. Thanks.
Thanks, Dennis. And our team is happy to meet with you. I think it would be really helpful to have a separate meeting with the engagement team. You have a few of our folks on here, but not all of them, to talk more about this, and love the work that you're doing there in that space, Dennis. Thank you.
Right, Hope. I'm going to pass it back over to you to go ahead and get our presentation with Bonnie started. And Bonnie, I believe you all have been given the control to take over screen sharing. So I'm going to stop screen sharing for you guys.
All right, Bonnie and team, are we ready?
I think so. I think I saw all of us are on here. So I think this will be a really timely presentation because we were just talking about rural Colorado. And so my name is Bonnie. I'm your prevention TA. I'm here to connect you to all supports and resources related to primary prevention. I heard Erin mention the video. Thank you for doing your homework. That's amazing. So Caitlin was kind enough to send out 2 resources related to our work. One was a quick educational video that was put on by the Rocky Mountain Public Health Training Center. If you haven't watched it, I would recommend take some time to watch it. And then she also sent out a website from SAMHSA that describes the substance use block grant and the primary prevention set aside. And so before I introduce my co-presenters, Caitlin had asked us to present on how we are serving rural Colorado. And so we're going to do that. And then also I've brought some of our grantees in today And we're hoping that some of the information they provide could help inform recommendations when it is time to make recommendations. And Caitlin, I see you have your hand up.
So I just want to go ahead and tie this back in to the letter of recommendation that you all made this year to the BHA regarding the block grant funding. And one of them was learning how substance or prevention dollars are being utilized and spent in rural communities. So that's exactly how this presentation is tying back into that letter of recommendation request. So just wanted to clarify that there.
Awesome. Thank you for that context and connecting the dots. That's perfect. So from the Community Prevention and Early Intervention team, today we have Kathy Dote. Kathy and I are both program managers, so we oversee contracts throughout Colorado to community-based organizations engaged in very impactful prevention work. We also have Tiasha Fernando Bacrac, and she is one of our evaluators. So she provides invaluable technical assistance to each of our grantees on how to measure progress towards given outcomes. And then we're very lucky to have two people actually doing the work. So we have Daniel Knudsen of Park County and Jacob Rippey of Gilpin County. And they will be presenting in a little bit. We're going to give some context first. Next slide, please. And also, if you have questions, if you could hold them to the end, there's definitely going to be time for it. So we're going to be going over prevention science and the substance use block grant. We're going to be talking about block grant funds in rural Colorado, and then I'll turn it over to Gilpin and Park. Next slide, please. And so this is the first section, and some of you might be aware, some of you might not, but through SAMHSA, there are two block grants. One is the mental health block grant. One is the substance use block grant. Our funds come from the substance use block grant. Next slide. So the Community Prevention and Early Intervention team at the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, here's the acronym soup for you, provides programmatic compliance and evaluation services to substance use prevention grantees throughout the state. On July 1st, 2022, I can't believe it's been more than 2 years, we moved from the Department of Human Services to the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. So for those of you that remember OBH, we used to be housed within OBH. And then when the BHA was created, they were strategically looking at who does what work. And they're like, wait, isn't there an entire division of people at CDPHE that does work that aligns with yours? How about we have you go over there and work with them? So that's why we're at CDPHE, but we're still connected to the Behavioral Health Administration through an interagency agreement. And I'll pass it to Kathy.
Good morning, everyone. So as folks probably on this call know, SAMHSA is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. It's a federal entity that focuses on our nation's health and efforts to that end. They provide funding to support substance misuse, mental health, and funding in support of treatment and recovery. And as Bonnie mentioned, SAMHSA administers two block grants, the mental health and the substance use block grant. BHPAC, this group that convenes, is a mandated component of the mental health block grant. Next slide, please. So to continue, as Bonnie said, with the acronym soup, SUBTRS or SUBG, those are the two acronyms that we use for our block grant, because that is a mouthful. Sometimes you will hear us refer just to block grant, but it's particularly to the substance use block grant. If you look at funding as a funnel and also as a feedback loop, the question that arises is how do federal funds trickle down to local communities, and how do local communities impact federal funds? Block grants are non-competitive, again, formula-based, and as Bonnie had mentioned, there's a 20% set aside of SUBG funds that is the set aside. 20% is set aside by the states to support prevention activities. So what we mean when we talk about block grants, we refer to grant programs that provide federal assistance for broadly defined functions, such as community development or social services. And the substance use block grant allows the grant recipient more discretion than other grants in determining how to use funds to meet broader program goals. Next slide, please. So again, primary prevention is a required component of the block grant, and 20% of the funds must support primary prevention strategies. So in 1994, the Institute of Medicine, or IOM, created the first model and spectrum of the mental, emotional, and behavioral interventions spectrum. This half moon was updated in 2009 and then again in 2019. And these updates reflect changes in research and shifts in community thinking norms to suggest that in addition to treatment and maintenance services, the nation should consider the importance of one, universal prevention, which focuses on the entire population of children, adolescents, not those with just specific risk factors in schools, primary care, or community settings. Two, that selective prevention aimed at children with identified risks. And then three, indicated prevention for those beginning to exhibit symptoms to forestall development of full-blown clinical episodes. So in 2019, these updates highlight the critical importance of actively promoting the mental, emotional, and behavioral development across the entire population of children and young people. And in this version of the spectrum of intervention, the IOM, this continuum, there's an increase, as you can see, in the size of the promotion and the prevention wedges, which more accurately reflect their importance. Next slide, please. So primary prevention. The primary prevention substance use block grant focuses on children, youth, young adults, and families. As research demonstrates that behavioral health problems are more effectively prevented when efforts begin in early childhood through early adulthood. Early prevention can have a considerable impact across the lifespan. And with our particular funds, tobacco is excluded from this grant, as several other funding sources are very specific in targeting tobacco. They're already in existence, so funding can be sought that way. Two primary efforts through funding are to reduce dysfunction or promote health before the onset of a disorder, and two, to be population focused, targeting either the whole population or subgroups with known vulnerabilities.
Thank you very much, Kathy. So we're going to talk about how these funds are serving rural Colorado. Next slide, please. So we currently have a program called the Under-Resourced High Needs Program, or the acronym is UHRN. And so back in 2019, we did a statewide needs assessment for prevention. And did I say 2019? I meant 2018. And so the program was created, the EARN program was created in conjunction with the design of this round of our substance abuse block grant RFA, and planning for it started in 2019. And 2019 is also significant for me for another reason, and that is the year that I started being your prevention TA here at BHPAC. So that was a good year. And then, so based on the needs assessment, a formula was created similar to the block grant formula. This formula identified counties using data points, including level of youth substance use, youth perception of ease of access to substances, mental health red flags, level of risky behaviors, poverty, and crime rates. So using those data points, we selected 10 rural counties to be part of this program. So prior to this, all of our funding had been given out via competitive RFAs, but through the EARN program, we gave out non-competitive interagency agreements to these 10 rural counties. And counties that were identified as receiving 6 or more prevention funding streams were excluded from the list. And also, it was another side note, so contracts went into effect July 1st, 2020. So you can imagine that was not the ideal time for any community to start receiving funding, but the communities have done an amazing job. Next slide, please. So these are the 10 counties that were selected. Baca County, so we currently have a contract with Campo School District. We have a contract with the Bent County 4-H Extension Office. We have a contract with Clear Creek County. In Custer County, we contract with the school district. In Fremont County, we contract with the Fremont County Public Health Department. In Gilpin County, we contract with the Park and Recreation District. In Werfeno, we also contract with the Health Department. And then we contract with Park County School District, Powers County Public Health. We were contracting with Teller County through Woodland Park School District, but they elected to not renew the contract after fiscal year 23. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to turn it over to two of our wonderful grantees. And let's see who goes first. Next slide. Awesome. Park County. And I'll turn it to you, Daniel.
Morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Awesome. So my name is Daniel Knutson. I live between Fairplay and Alma in Park County. My background includes about a decade as a secondary educator and over the last 3 years transitioning to a preventionist role. Being in a small rural area, we all have to wear a lot of hats to get the work done. So my prevention work is through the school with this block grant that Bonnie has given you background on. I also work with Park County Public Health to administer opioid settlement funds. So lots of kind of intermingling of different organizations and different funding because resources are scarce, both human resources, capital resources, and the physical built spaces that we have to work with. And so we have to kind of braid a lot of funds in order to get substantial work done. So some of the things that my coalition has been able to do with this funding is our foundational strategy is Botman Life Skills, which is kind of values and goals-based substance education. Does not focus on scare tactics or anything, but teaches youth to set goals and determine values and to take a look at how their peer influences and how media influences may alter the choices they make and how to prioritize good choices that are ultimately healthy. The information dissemination is a real struggle for us because Park County is so dispersed. It's just a very large county. And so community events to share information can be difficult. We capitalize on parent-teacher conferences. And we have a captive audience when parents are there, and we do some substance education with parents while they're waiting to talk with teachers. Teen Advisory Board. We have, I'll go into more detail on this one shortly, but we've had a kind of a roller coaster with trying to get this off the ground, and very recently have gotten some exciting momentum, and they have their second meeting tonight. We fund programs at our Boys and Girls Clubs to get our kids more diverse experiences and get them on field trips and going to other places and having new experiences. The South Park School of Rock, we're really proud of. It's a small jam band of only a handful of kids, but they meet regularly and have started performing at community festivals. Positive community norms. We take our data from Healthy Kids Colorado and just kind of skew it to the positive. So, rather than saying 20% of our kids use cannabis, it's 80% of our kids don't use cannabis, which some of the high school boys really struggle with that framing because it challenges their worldview. Green Thumb Initiative is a at-home cooking classes on Zoom. And so we sign up kids, families from the school to take cooking classes at home with their family, and the instructor is at home in his kitchen, and they learn how to cook a meal together. And so we're looking at ways to kind of leverage that to do some more parent education because they're by far our hardest group to reach is the parents. Positive Tickets provide ways for school resource officers to have positive interactions with youth. They're just simple gift cards. And the Ski Club. South Park High School had a really robust ski club for many years, and funding dropped off, and the core group of high schoolers that ran it graduated. And so it fizzled, and we are reinvigorating it with these funds. The two keystones for what's happening here is the coalition and our community mini grants. So the coalition includes members of the school, our recreation center, counselors, both licensed professional and school counselors, public health, Boys and Girls Club, and DHS. And we are really passionate about increasing opportunities for our youth. And then our community mini grants, we don't have a lot of resources, and so we have to leverage what we have. And the community mini grants are where the coalition subawards our block grant funds in small amounts to the local horse rescue and local outdoor organizations to provide more opportunities for the teens in our area. Next slide, please. So the risk and protective factors that we focus on. Connection to trusted adults. For us, this is on par with the state and our HSR 17 neighboring counties. We try to impact this by way of our Positive Community Norms campaign. And Botvin Life Skills also has a focus on talking to your parents about substance use. Community opportunities for pro-social involvement. School sports are really big for our kids because there's not a lot to do. And if you don't have a lot to do, the only place you get to see your friends is at school. And so football, basketball, volleyball, baseball is an extension of that. And so keeping school sports, keeping involvement in school sports high is priority for us. The engagement and connection in these different contexts, we target that multiple ways. Teen Advisory Board, the Boys and Girls Club funding, the South Park School of Rock, Green Thumb Initiative, and the Ski Club are all different ways that these kids get to interact with their peers, their teachers, you know, their friends' parents, who are also the director of the rec center, and build that relationship and trust. And then through our Positive Community Norms, we are looking at ways to train the adults in the community to kind of organically capitalize on substance conversations by way of, you know, focusing on what the youth values and why they're choosing to use substances and how being connected with their peers and their community can impact that. The two most predominant risk factors for us is youth perception of harm and peer attitudes. So the perception of harm is interesting for us. Botvin Life Skills, we pre and post survey, and our teens have a relatively high perception of harm. And so it's hard to move the needle on that. But in our community, the use of substances is very acceptable. And so there's this very weird dichotomy where they know it's not good for them, but there may not be enough people telling them, hey, why are you doing that? And so we've seen the age of initiation kind of trend down over the years, but they still know it's not good for them. And so we've been taking multiple routes to try to not only keep that perception of harm high, but also influence them to, you know, make a values-based decision as opposed to a peer influence decision. And that peer attitude towards drugs, one thing I want to highlight there in our recent Healthy Kids Colorado survey data, the use of psychedelics that they reported was higher than our health statistics region and double, almost triple that of the state. And so that one is very much on our radar. And it kind of goes back to that community acceptable attitude. They know it's not good for them, but we need the community to kind of help us along that way. Last slide, please. So my recommendations from experience with this block grant. The long grant period is crucial. This takes time in rural areas. I don't have a lot of resources. I don't have a lot of people, and word of mouth takes time. So does driving across the county. And so having multiple years for this is fantastic. The best example of that is one of our keystone programs, the community mini grants. In year one, we had 5 awards and awarded about $9,000. By year 3, we had tripled both of those to 16 awards and $34,000 to local community organizations to keep their programs running and robust for teens. Capital funding. It's really hard to build community involvement when we don't have community spaces. Capital funding is elusive, it is crucial, and would really be important for us to kind of, and it doesn't have to be big. The Boys and Girls Club is now running our teen advisory board. Their teen room is falling apart.
You want to open that?
I'm sorry?
Let your pause.
Okay. Their teen room is falling apart, right? Capital funding is really key in rural areas where we don't have a lot of resources. That teen advisory board is another example of why this takes time. The first year, it was a glorified activity only group. By year 3, we have teen advisory board members who attend our coalition meeting as a paid member to better their community. Transportation logistics. Park County is big. Rural frontier counties are vast, and not all families have reliable transportation or can afford the gas money to get there. And so we need programs that impact youth where they are, that don't require them to drive 20 miles across the county in February. And the last thing I would ask for you to keep in mind is that the impact is relative. Numbers only don't tell the whole story. Some of our best programs only have 8 kids. Well, for us, 8 kids, that's half of a graduating class. If we scale that up to the Front Range, that the impact is relative. So just keep that in mind when we're dealing with counties that are overall have a small number to work with. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Daniel. And Jacob, we'll kick it off to you.
Right on. Thanks, Bonnie. Daniel, great to hear what you guys are doing over in Park County. Hi, everybody. I'm Jake Rippey here with Gilpin County Parks and Recreation. I'm the youth program supervisor up here. We are a URHN grantee doing universal, evidence-based, and alternate programming with our grant funding, which is broken into 4 main programs. You can see on this slide here, we've got 2 evidence-based programs and 2 alternate activity programs. The EBPs we implement are BHPAC life skills classes, just like Park, and positive action lessons. We teach the life skills classes in 3rd grade, 5th grade, middle school, and high school at the local school. We just have the one within our county. And the elementary school teachers work out a time to combine their classes once a week for us, usually towards the beginning of the year. And then we schedule the middle and high school classes with their health and PE teacher over there, which has worked out really well so far for us. Positive action lessons take place within our licensed school-age childcare, which is located in our local community center, where I'm here now, our Parks and Rec home base. We do that twice per week during the school year and 3 to 4 times per week in the summer. We typically use an adapted 2nd grade curricula for our combined K through 6 age group. And those positive action lessons are really similar and closely aligned to the BHPAC life skills training. Definitely very similar lessons, usually just shorter and more focused on the younger age groups that we have over here. And then our 2 main alternate activities are a free drop-in program and the aforementioned school-age childcare that we have. Childcare is year-round, K through 6th grade. We can take up to 50 kids if we have 2 rooms available, otherwise limited to 30, and that operates after school, Monday through Thursday, and all day Fridays during the school year. We don't have school on Fridays up here. And then Monday through Friday over school breaks, winter, spring, summer, and just excluding most major holidays. The teen program really started up when we received this grant funding, and that is that provides free, full access to our community center and daily planned activities after school, Monday through Thursday. Then monthly field trips or weekly in the summer, and occasional special events, volunteer opportunities, etc. And that program is directed by a youth leadership team that typically consists of about 8 to 10 local teens that meet monthly to plan activities and field trips, request supplies and equipment, and determine program rules and social norms for that group. We really wanted that to be a for youth by youth kind of program, and so we make sure we've got youth engaged in all of the decision making for that program, which also has been really awesome. And then we also do a fair amount of information dissemination with monthly email blast updates to all our families, fairly regular meetings with various stakeholders in the community partners like public health, human services, local coordinating organization for child cares, our early childhood council, county leadership, and a couple of local coalitions that we have up here working on some similar issues in our community. You can go ahead and flip to the next slide. So these are the specific risk and protective factors that we chose to focus on. We decided on these using the Healthy Kids Colorado survey data and statewide youth development dashboard back in 2019 during the original application process for this grant. And those results showed really high discrepancy in our region relative to statewide averages for several different data points related to each of these categories. And then marijuana use and nicotine use were significantly higher than average as well. And this information was really confirmed and verified when we conducted our community readiness assessment in early 2021. And from a lot of anecdotal conversations with school personnel, local law enforcement, public health, human services, and several of our community youth. And then in reviewing, the following iterations of the HKCS the last few years as they came out, as well as our own pre-post survey data that we've been doing with the grant and continued conversations with stakeholders and partners and kids, it does appear that these continue to be the areas that we should be focusing on. That said, we have seen improving trends in our own data for most of these metrics, with the most significant exception being in peer conflict last year, unfortunately, which is something we're definitely taking a closer look at. Next slide, please. So these are our recommendations for any future funders looking to support programs in communities like ours. Capital projects like Daniel mentioned, probably not much explanation needed here. Most grants we've looked into don't allow capital spending, but being able to make these larger purchases to furnish a room, add an extension, buy a new vehicle, can have a really significant and lasting impact, especially for rural communities like ours. And it's particularly true for us, as capacity has been one of the biggest barriers for expanding our programs and extending our reach to serve more youth. Our participation has been awesome, and our enrollment numbers have just been going up and up. But we have, one multi-purpose room that in our community center here that we use for our teen program. So that's a shared space that we can't really furnish or decorate. And so even though the teens are using it more than anyone else, it doesn't really feel like their space. And then we have to use that same room in the summer for our childcare so that we can take the huge numbers that we've seen in that program. But then we're still sharing it with other meetings and other programs and organizations that need that space occasionally. So it is pretty tricky to work around. And then there's the transportation issues. Like Daniel mentioned also, rural communities, transportation is tricky. We don't have public transportation. Everybody is spread out. We can't, most of our kids and families can't walk here to the community center or to school or really anywhere safely. And so, we try to help with transportation as much as we can. We've got about 2 vans that can seat 20 kids, but we often have enrollment for summer camp close to 50 kids and have some significant wait lists for some of our teen field trips. And then, there's the concern for emergency transportation. If we do have 50, 60, however many kids here at the rec center and we had to evacuate for whatever reason, it would be logistically complicated to get everybody out of here in a timely manner. But yeah, capital projects, one of the best ways to ensure sustainability and growth for grant-funded programs and activities, because then even when the money runs out, we would at least still have the space and equipment we need to operate, which is just huge. And then this next one that I put down here is professional advocacy. And what I mean by that is having a designated person or group that is an expert in presenting and interpreting data, explaining risk and protective factors, changing policy, or asking for funding to try to help convince a community or local government or commissioners, whoever we need buy-in from, that our work is important and to support and or fund our programs in the long term. And this is something that's way outside my area of expertise if I even had time to focus on it. But once this grant funding runs out, that's something we're going to really have to try to focus on. And it's hard for people like us to even know where to start. Again, I think that would really help with the sustainability piece and upstream prevention work, specifically in rural communities. And then just technical assistance for grant writing, specifically for potential applicants. This is not super relevant for non-competitive grants like ours, and we did have a lot of support from CDHS and OBH at the time during that application phase, which was huge. But I think it's fair to assume that there are communities out there without dedicated grant writers or even individuals with that kind of experience that might still have a great need for grant funding. And this could go a long way to improve equity in dispersing grant funds, making sure resources get to communities with the highest need rather than the most talented writers, right? That's pretty much all I've got, but I would just like to take this extra opportunity to again thank the whole CPEI, BHA team, CDPHE, CDHS. This funding has really been huge for our community, especially with all the changes, challenges, and inconsistencies over the last few years. Like Bonnie mentioned, this started in 2020, right in the middle of all the COVID shutdowns. So we had to really be flexible and make a lot of adaptations. And we've just got so much support that has been incredible for our community. So thank you again, and take it away, Bonnie.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jake and Daniel. That was amazing. It's been great to be part of the journey as a funder. So right now, this is a map of not just our under-resourced high needs program, but all of the communities that are currently receiving funds. You'll notice, unfortunately, there are gaps, but I would say if we were looking at the map from 2015 to 2020, we have definitely expanded into more rural areas. And yeah, it's been great to be a part of this. And yeah, I know we're running low on time. I want to get to people's questions. So what questions do folks have? Megan, I see you have your hand up.
Thank you. And thank you for this great work. It's amazing. It's really exciting. I am curious when you encounter young people whom are presenting with mental health issues, right? This prevention grant is for substance, right? And, you know, how much do you blend sort of like access to resources around a young person who might be presenting with mental health as well? And oftentimes we do see co-occurring or, you know, substance use as a replacement for more appropriate ways to address some mental health needs. So how, like, what do you do when that happens? Are you able to use any of that money towards like blending, right? Because so much of this is place-based and just feeling a sense of community, which is so beautiful. Or like, what do you do? Can you not use money for mental health stuff because it's a different kind of grant? Or how do you address that issue? Because I'm out here in rural as well, and sometimes there's just no resources for mental health, right? So what do you guys do when you get kiddos that like really need some of those interventions? Thank you.
I think that's a great question. I'll start with some context and then I'll see if anyone wants to take it from there. So as we talked about, shared risk and protective factors, such as connection to a trusted adult, connection to community, both of these are evidence-based to not only improve substance misuse outcomes, but also mental health outcomes. So these funds are actually set aside to help people prior to need for treatment. And so we're hoping that by addressing shared risk and protective factors that we are addressing both. And then would anyone else like to give context or more information?
Daniel has his hand raised.
Policy work, Bonnie.
Oh, policy work.
Yeah, we at South Park Schools, I worked with policy review committee to change policy when students are caught with substances on campus from, you know, immediate punitive suspension to now the principal's primary option is SBIRT, just screening, brief intervention, referral to treatment. And so the kid goes to the counselor for screening and a brief intervention. And then we created a community resource list of all the professional counseling options, both in person through our school-based health center and virtual, that we can refer the kids to. And that counselor helps families find, you know, ways to fund that or, you know, the most affordable option to get that treatment. And going through SBIRT is in lieu of suspension as long as they complete what the counselor prescribes as necessary treatment. And so the funding was for the policy work, not the treatment itself.
Anyone else on the team want to give any information on that? But that was great. Thank you for the policy component. I think I saw Aaron's hand go up first and then Jenny's.
Thanks so much. You know, this is just really beneficial for me in my work that I do in all kinds of other places. So I'm so grateful for this group. Thank you so much. You know, I had a thought when you talked about early prevention, and I think Kathy Dote was the one that was speaking on this, population focused, and you said all children, youth, young adults, families. And I'm just wondering, you know, we understand the statistics of how many of our kiddos and families struggle with substance use, abuse, and/or mental health issues. You know, it makes me wonder if we should quit separating folks and doing so many assessments. We know the risk factors. We already know this exists and that a high percentage of our kiddos are walking down that road, right? So it just made me think that this should be these life skill classes, these peer conflict classes, these education classes on the harms of all of this. That should be just for all of them, all the kids, all the youth, everybody. And because we know the percentage, we know that most of them have risk factors already. And so that's just helpful for me here when I'm talking to my youth advisory commissions here in Larimer County, Northern Colorado. Sounds to me like our peers teaching them about themselves and leadership and conflict and peer connections. It's really all about giving them the tools they need to take the reign. In my experience, it's peers. Whether you're an adult, whether you're a child, or whether you're family, I needed peers around my family. So that, and that's where the connection comes from. I mean, if we had a robust youth peer program that teaches them all of this, and they go teach it at the middle school, not an adult, they're peers. And so this has just been a phenomenal conversation. I'm so grateful for all of you. And that's my comment. Thanks so much.
We really appreciate the support. Thank you. And Jenny, you've had your hand up. And I'm so happy that you're here, Jenny.
Thank you, Bonnie. I just wanted to clarify and add to what you already explained so eloquently that in some counties, and I completely agree with Daniel, in some of the counties that we work in, Fremont County being one of them, we don't have the luxury of having kind of a, very wide range of resources. And so that's a blessing and a curse at the same time. But on the blessing side, the organizations that work with youth and families in prevention very often happen to be also clinical organizations that have offerings down the line of the whole continuum of services. And so I know that in our work, it's very easy to identify if kids need a little bit more than just prevention involvement. And we very quickly can triage some higher level of care intervention if need be. We also would like to include peers of any ages in those recovery gardens that we're building. And so I want to take up too much of your time, but I wanted to thank you about presenting all those opportunities because they're only now seeming to produce results.
Caitlin, how are we doing on time? Do I need to pass it back to you?
We still have about 5 minutes before we need to open it for public comment. So we're still doing good. And I do want to inform the council as a whole that at our next meeting in January, we're going to take a couple of minutes at the beginning of the meeting to discuss kind of in depth internally, you know, how this presentation went, how these conversations went, any recommendations that we might have, and kind of come up with that list that we can send back over to Bonnie and her team to review in detail, and we can keep having these conversations throughout the year as well. So just kind of wanted to foreshadow what's to come here. So see Megan's hand raised. We'll pass it over to Megan.
Sorry to take up so much time, just real quick. And I love the peer conversation. So much yes on peers. As we know, some of our youngest humans are struggling, you know, beyond kind of like what federal dollars, you know, would support, or we're just maybe not catching our LE kids, our elementary school children. And while we may gasp, it's so needed. And I'm not sure if maybe, you know, and Park and Gilpin, you guys are, but to the peer point, you know, we have to stop being afraid of having the conversations with our very young people, because we're seeing presentation in elementary school. So just a kind of a reminder in that space. And I know you know this, Bonnie, and you're on it, but like really making it very available for our younger populations, not being afraid to talk about these things, not being afraid to have programs or have peer push-in at younger ages, so we're not capturing our kiddos once they're already in high acuity, you know, at 12 and up. So just food for thought as we continue to reach into all these spaces, that we don't want to forget our LE kids. They need it. They need it so much, and we need to be there for them too.
Awesome. I see one of my teammates, Kathy, has something to say, so we'll go to Kathy and then Laureen.
I just wanted to comment real quick with regard to what Erin shared. You're absolutely right. I think when we think about our block grant funds and think about the folks and what they're implementing in their communities, our communities are the experts in their communities. They know, they look at their data, they know what's going on, they know what they have and don't have. And so they have this ability to choose the programming that best suits and what's going to really impact the risk factors that are in the community. And so that's a beautiful thing, I think, with this funding, is that we don't say you have to use X, Y, and Z, but we say, you know your community, look at your data, and then determine what's going to work best in your community. With regard to what Megan shared just earlier in terms of reaching our younger youth, we're starting to see that. Some of our grantees that are implementing LST, which is one of the most widely implemented programs, evidence-based programs that our grantees are using, they have started to bring youth into the conversation in terms of getting them trained. And I've seen it in some communities. I would say the example would be Baca County, where in their school district, they're implementing LST to the older youth. And then they taught the LST, got trained to young, to teens, and then the youth trained it to the elementary school. So it was peer to peer. And I thought that was a really beautiful thing in terms of like young folks getting that information, starting to have those conversations. And Megan, LST is life skills training. And so that's starting to happen, and communities are starting to see that need, that we need to start having some of these conversations and giving those young people the skills early on.
Thank you so much, Kathy. And I think Laureen might have dropped off. Oh.
No.
Oh, you're still here. Awesome. Good.
I like the inclusivity and the community-wide activities that are going on with prevention. And believe it or not, I never thought of a prevention program helping someone who wasn't going to wind up a drug addict or a mentally ill person. And now I see how silly it was. I always thought, okay, prevention is to prevent these targeted kids from going bad, or whatever you want to say. But now I'm understanding it as prevention is community-wide. Everybody's working on it. They're learning about conditions that would require people to have treatment, but they're not emphasizing treatment. But there is a bridge. And so we divide things into prevention, treatment, recovery. And you think, yeah, they're really doing the same thing. I now see where there's a reason why they're divided, not just to divide up the work, but there are resources and talents and other things involved that require special attention on the first part of that. So treatment, you would be backing a little bit and saying, okay, Joe needs to go to treatment. Well, we've got this groundwork for prevention, and now we'll just build some treatment options. And then the same with the treatment. Okay, they've gone through treatment. Now they need to get back into the community, but we're not going to just throw them into the water and see if they can swim. Oh, well, with treatment, they were going out. I've been to treatment, so you go out and see these other resources and such, and then you send them to the resources. You invite them to the resources, but they have to be there. So I just wanted to share that this revelation for me that sometimes we emphasize the sameness or equality of the different aspects and really there are some individualized aspects that don't have anything to do with other things, especially with prevention. Having a teen space where you can go and shoot pool and play cards and make crochet, that's got nothing to do with substance use. But you can use it. There can be a connection, but it doesn't all have to be substance use, mentally ill, substance use, mentally ill. I'm rambling. I apologize. I know we have other things to do, but I wanted to share that.
Lorraine, we're going to get to Margie really fast, and then we are going to close questions at this time because we are at time and we do need to hold a little space for public questions. So Margie, real fast, we'll move it over to you.
I just wanted to add how important I think it is, the school piece, and I see Phyllis is on the call. So I know the prevention work being done within schools and just thinking in terms of how are those dots connected, the amazing work that you're doing, Bonnie, with your programs, then the work being done, Phyllis, with Department of Education. I think the important piece is how is everybody kind of connecting dots so that, as Megan said, we have kids with those really high risk, high needs children, and how are we assuring that they're getting the help they need at the same time where we're doing this prevention work that it benefits all kids. So I'm not going to put Phyllis on the spot because I know we don't have time, but I think it's also important to really learn what's happening within schools. And certainly, I think it was Jacob that talked about the Healthy Kids Survey. I know in Jefferson County, that's something that we look at a lot with the collaborative management program and the Jefferson communities that care. So just knowing that so much is going on in the state, how are we connecting those dots seems so important. Thanks.
Well said, Marjorie. Thank you so much. And as Caitlin mentioned, we'll have a review at the beginning of our next council meeting. So at this time, we got to move towards opening for public comment. Seems like.
Oh, this is Bonnie. I selfishly want to say this out loud too, but I just wanted to give a very special shout out to Marjorie. She's been tirelessly advocating for prevention since well before I was part of this group. Her community service is just amazing, and she's been one of my mentors and teachers. So thank you so much, Marjorie.
Marjorie, you're awesome. We love you.
We do love you, Marjorie. Thank you. Thank you for that, Bonnie. And thank you to you and your team. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Kathy, for showing up today. And what an incredible presentation. That was very helpful. And as mentioned, we will bring this back for our council to discuss and review. And I just hats off to you and all your incredible work. And thank you everyone for being here today. What a wonderful meeting, very informative, collaborative, and I look forward to seeing you all next month. So motion to close out our December council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
so
Have a
much,
healthy,
everybody.
happy holidays, happy
Bye.
New Year.
Yes,
Thank
have a
you.
wonderful holiday season. Everybody be safe, have fun. See you hopefully January 2nd. Keep an eye out on your emails.
Happy holidays.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you.